Hey, everybody, it's Scott Steen with the winnersandwhiners.com coming to you with the Monday edition of Today in Sports Betting. This is part one. And for those of you that are regulars, you know part one means the NBA. Let's bring on my partner in crime, the one, the only, Scott Reichel. Scott, happy Monday. It's another week, baby. How you doing?
No, it's another week, but we got ourselves a pretty unique situation because we actually have playoff basketball. I know that you can make the argument saying the weekend had the play-in basketball, which could be argued as a playoff game. Not quite. It depends if you view the play-in games for March Madness as March Madness. You can make that argument. I'm not really one of those people. I think that if you're going to be filling out a bracket and the game that you're looking at doesn't matter, I don't think it really counts as part of the experience. But either or, we finally have actual best of seven basketball, and I feel like people have been waiting for this for a while. So hopefully the actual games turn out to be solid content.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. It will be interesting to find out. We've gotten rid of a little bit of the chaff, got a little more wheat. So
You're telling me I get no more access to Wizards games? Come on. This is so
Yeah.
unfortunate.
Yeah, not having to watch the Wizards and the Kings and the Pelicans. It's going to be heartbreaking. It really is. But we still
Pelicans actually fired their coach. Look at them.
What's that? Oh, the Pelicans?
Yeah.
Alvin Gentry. What took you so long, Pels?
The thing is that Alvin Gentry could have probably prevented being fired, but he didn't teach any defense, so he couldn't get out of it.
Oh, good point. So, Scott, we're going to pretty much skip the first game. We know that's going to be posted. It's going to take place probably after we get posted.
We're both leaning to Denver anyway.
Just for grins, I think without Mike Conley, I think you and I were both going to lean to Denver there.
Yeah.
Mike Conley home for the birth of his child. Selfish bastard.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with the Nets and the Raptors, Scott. This game has gone from 9.5 on the overnights up to 10 as I look at it now. 221.5 is your total.
A lot of movement on the under. I know the total opened up roughly 223, 224, so there has been a lot of money being bet on the under, mostly because of Toronto's ridiculous defense, which is the number one defense in the league. But for my actual opinion on this matchup, I kind of like the Nets plus the points. I'm not going to take it. This is one of these series where I don't really know if I'm interested in betting any single game because Toronto should win every game on paper by about 25 points. And that's how every game's gone for the Nets in the bubble, except for the fact the Nets have actually performed well and they've been competitive. And Toronto, even though they are the much better team, and even though I personally think they're going to make it back to the NBA Finals this year, the issue that I have with Toronto, and it's the issue that's plagued them for years, this team is always terrible in game one of the playoffs in every series that they're in. They're always terrible in game one.
Except last year they
back to recover.
Last year they went 2-2, and it was
that's actually the best they've done in game.
Yes, one. Yeah, I was going to bring that up because that is quite a trend, and we jumped on that last year to mix results. Obviously, we lost the Jews, but yeah, and they did lose to Orlando last year in the first round. Well, they didn't cover against Orlando in the first round, so
they lost game one because Augustine hit that game-winning three.
That's right, they lost it outright, didn't they?
Yeah, they lost it outright. I still remember that they ended up winning game one outright against Golden State, which kind of shocked a bunch of people in the finals. But Toronto's always had that issue in game one. I'm not saying that that's going to continue now that Nick Nurse is the coach. You don't have to worry about Dwayne Casey doing stupid stuff in the playoffs again. But the one thing you have to wonder is that the Nets have hung tough against a lot of teams they've played against. And do you think that they could potentially have a fourth quarter run to cover through the back door? And I think that they could.
Yeah, the question is for the Nets, what time is it? Has the clock struck midnight yet? Or are they still driving around in a coach, Scott, or are they going to find themselves hooked to a pumpkin? That's really
they're going to get destroyed in this series, but I think game one could be relatively close.
You know, they look like they're relatively healthy. You know, Jamal Crawford is going to be out, and that's going to
the whole Nets are going to come down to LeVert. I mean, let's just be real. If you're going to cover this number, LeVert needs to have like 30 points.
Yeah, he really does need to, not quite go off, but he needs to have a very, very solid day. I can't bet against the Nets here. I just can't. I can't do it. I don't.
Nets have killed me in the bubble, so
I'm not gonna. Oh yeah, I think. Well, yeah. Oh, you're the one. I think the Nets have killed a lot of people in the bubble. This Toronto team, I would probably lean more under than I would with the side in this one. I do like the defense that they play against, we'll keep saying it, a depleted Nets team. It hasn't mattered so far. The zombie Nets have really pretty much ruled the day.
I think the Raptors will start dominating game 2 onward, but I think game 1, I'm trying to even think on the top of my head if these teams have played each other in the bubble. I don't think they have.
They have not.
Yeah, so it's a new look. Toronto tends to come out slow in these series in game 1. I don't know if the Nets are going to win the game. I'm not saying that. But 10, I think that would be the number the more the series progresses. But I think the Nets can lose by 8. That really wouldn't surprise me.
I think that line move from 9.5 to 10, I think that's a square move. I think that's the public on the much better team right there.
Now, I don't know if the game 1 struggles historically mean anything, but they're definitely worth addressing.
Right. I mean, yeah, it's one of those trends where you wonder if it's a thing or if it's just noise,
Yeah, I'll lean to the Nets and I'll lean to the under, but I'm not going to play personally.
I'm with you. I'm the same way. All right, so let's talk about these last 2 games. And these last 2 games, I actually have premium plays on. So
I'd play the day on one of them. So
okay, well,
I'm assuming we're going to agree on one of these 2. The only question is which one.
Which one is it? All right, well, let's start with the first one. This is going to be the Philadelphia 76ers and the Boston Celtics. This line is moved from 5.5 to 6 on the Celtics. 218.5 is the total. Scott, what do you got right there?
Well, this wasn't my premium, but I had a parlay a couple of days ago on a series future, and one of the plays in there was Celtics minus 1.5 games in the series. For me, I think you kind of have to take the Celtics. I don't really think this is much of a discussion. I think you made the argument that the Celtics should be around this favorite, maybe around minus 4.5 instead of 6, maybe if Simmons was healthy. But in reality, Brown's the inferior coach. Philly has an injured roster. And Boston is the much better team and has done a lot more in the playoffs in the past. So I don't really know how Philly is within 6 here. If I was pricing it myself, I'd probably lean to Boston minus 7.5, minus 8. I think 6 is way too low of a spread for these 2 teams.
All right, and I'm looking at that total, and I think that's an undervalued total as well. I think this Philadelphia team,
they're not great defensively.
No, I don't love that defense. I think Boston, even though they're not exactly an offensive juggernaut, I think that they're going to be able to score enough points to take this one up and over the total. And I would play the over right there.
Okay.
All right, and last game of the night should be could be an entertaining game between the Clippers and the Dallas Mavs. 6 is your number right there, juiced a little bit to the Clippers side. 229 is the total. Scott, is it time for the new guard yet with Porzingis and Doncic, or is it time for the Kyrie and to put the claw on that Dallas offense and take care of business?
Well, for me, this was my play today. I had the Clippers minus 6. A couple reasons why. If you want to check that out for more details, check out my video on Winners or Whiners. But for my breakdown, it was mostly just the fact that I hate Dallas's defense. It's terrible. It can't stop anybody. Clippers have dominated during the regular season. And the issue I have with Dallas is the fact that Porzingis now has a heel issue. He's not at 100%. And this team has no playoff experience because Doncic and Porzingis will be making their first playoff starts in this game. And the Clippers have a ton of playoff experience on the roster. And I feel like even though Dallas has a bright future, I don't exactly think facing the Clippers is going to be a great spot for success. I think it's going to be more of a growing experience. I think they're going to get destroyed in this series. If I'm being completely honest, I think they might win a game. But at the end of the day, I think the Clippers are just a different animal. And Dallas has really 2 guys with no playoff experience who are expected to carry the entire team offensively. No offense to Maxi Kleber and Tim Hardaway Jr. and Trey Burke. But when it comes to actual playoff series, I don't really trust any of them to do anything, especially when you have Kawhi Leonard and Paul George taking turns guarding Doncic. So I'm going to go with the Clippers. I think they'll probably win by double digits.
All right, how do you feel about the total here?
Money's coming on the under from 231 to 229. The issue you have is that you don't know how these games are going to be reffed, especially in the fourth quarter by these referees who might swallow their whistles a bit more than what we've been accustomed to, which has been somewhat the trend in years past in the playoffs. For totals, if I was really going to lean to the over, I would just take Clippers team total over. That's probably be the move I would do.
Yeah.
Because I think there is a good chance that Dallas could get shut down, which is why you have seen this total move under, because the Clippers defensively are light years ahead of the Mavericks. I don't think that's really an argument. So I'd probably lean Clippers team total over instead of looking at an actual over-under for the entire game. But, yeah, I'm Clippers all the way on this one.
Yeah, I think the more I think the more sure bet, like you said, is betting on the Clippers to go over 117.5. Only 3 times in the bubble did they not breach that total, including putting up 126 against this very same Dallas Mavericks team.
Logically, you have to think of what exactly you're betting with the over. And the thing is that if you're looking at this total of 228.5, 229, what, you're expecting the Clippers to probably have 120 points? You're expecting this game to turn into a track meet for the most part? Clippers are the favorites by 6 points. You assume they're going to win. But I think if the total's going to be at 229, you're automatically assuming that the Clippers are going to score around.
Well, if it's 230 and the spread's at 6, you're looking
at roughly 115 or 116 to like 114. You know, I know what the numbers project, but in reality, with a 6-point spread there, you're assuming the Clippers should be near 120 by the end of the game. So I'd feel more confident fading Dallas's defense instead of fading Dallas and the Clippers defense, because the Clippers defense is actually really good when they're healthy.
Right.
I don't know if Beverly's going to play or not, which also has an impact potential on the defense, but I think you'll agree with me that it's not even close. The Mavericks have one of the worst defenses in the league, and the Clippers have one of the best.
Yeah, I would say that they're probably is that the worst defense left in the bubble?
Portland.
Oh, how could I forget? Yeah, you're right.
Dallas has to be in the bottom 3, though. And I think that the Clippers, especially with how teams play in the bubble now, Clippers have to have a top 3, top 4 defense in the league.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Yeah. I'd play team total. I'd play team total over. I'd lean over, just because I think it's possible the Clippers could put up 125 in this one. How
healthy do you think Porzingis is? I think he's around 80%. I think he's around 80%.
7 out of 10 to 8 out of 10. Yeah.
Yeah, but I do feel that it hurts when Dallas is already the much more shallow team in terms of roster depth.
Right.
And now their second best player probably needs to have 30 points per game in order for the series to be competitive. Now has an injured foot, who's had injured leg issues in the past.
Yeah, he's got to be a real solid option, because they're absolutely just going to mug Doncic.
Well, the Clippers are also going to pick on Porzingis in the pick and roll if he can't move.
True.
So it's really just awful timing for the injury, and the Clippers dominated the Mavericks anyway when everyone was healthy. So I think it's a really bad matchup for Dallas.
All right, there you go. All right, guys. Well, that's an NBA show for today. That was it's quite unlike us, Scott. We actually ripped through that pretty quick there, buddy.
I'm gonna blame that on the very, very small amount of games on the schedule, because we skipped one of the 4 games.
That's right. We did skip the early game. You and I were both. We did have a thought on that, and we were both leaning towards Denver on that. Right?
I don't really know how you can't lean to Denver. It's a possible spot for everyone's counting us out, Utah, whatever. But in reality, without Connolly, they don't have enough ball handlers.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think although Barton and Harris are out again. Stop me if you've heard this before, but I don't.
Denver's bench is still pretty solid. So
yeah, agreed. And Porter's going to be back. So yeah, you and I both lean Denver there. Of course, again, by the time this comes out, good chance that game will not only be started, it could even be over. So
yep,
we'll see. All right, there you go, buddy. I hope we save something in the tank there for baseball.
Yeah. Well, I'm thrilled about baseball after what happened yesterday.
It was not our friend. And hey, if you want to hear us bitch about all of our bad beats yesterday at baseball, tune in to Today in Sports Betting Part 2 the MLB. But for myself, for Scott Reichel, this wraps up the first day of the NBA playoffs. I'm excited. Got playoff basketball. Got something that means something. And, we'll see how that goes. And, there you go. That's it. Have a day, everybody. Go out there and got some daytime basketball. Enjoy. Win some bets. And we'll meet back here tomorrow to talk about how we did and how we're going to do in the future. All right. For myself, for Scott Reichel, for all of us over here at winnersandwhiners.com, don't forget to check out winnersandwhiners.com for deep dives into all of these basketball playoff games and every other sport going on in America every single day. We will see you guys on the next show. Take care.